Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on Constellation from Apple TV, and it's got that haunting music, huh, 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 and it's about an astronaut that goes up in space, and then there's a terrible accident, and she comes back down quickly, only to discover something's very wrong. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 13, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. So she comes back to Earth to discover that she has a piano in her house and she can play piano, or that the piano was part of her life, but she doesn't remember ever playing the piano. And she was talking to her daughter before the crash, before the accident, and she feels like she is in basically an alternate universe. And she keeps seeing things like her daughter in different rooms of the house. And it has something to do with the experiment they did on the Constellation. And it's a series, so it's going to slowly roll out. And the mystery will be solved. Well, maybe if these guys can... I mean, there are very few guys that seem to be able to pull this off. You know? It starts February 21st. What's a name from Breaking Bad is in it? Mike. So that's kind of cool. I like him as an actor. But it's really more about the female astronaut and whether or not she's crazy. Of course, she's probably not crazy. It's probably some kind of alternate universe she slipped into due to the experiment. Can they make this pay off? I don't have a super high confidence. They might. They might be able to do it. So, if she's... First off, the answer will not be she's crazy and isn't seeing any of this. I don't think that'll be the answer at all. So, the only other possible answer is she is in an alternate reality. In which case, they've got to roll out how that happens and then how she gets back to her own timeline or, you know, alternate world or whatever. And, yeah, I guess you can make a series out of that. It seems to me, and this started sometime around, I want to say like the mid-2000s. Maybe a little after that, around 2010. Around 2010, I was pitching TV shows, and I pitched this show, and it was concept-wise totally complete, right? So in the first pilot, you learn the entire deal with the characters on the show. Okay, I don't want to go into the exact details, but you learn, you know, why the characters, who they are and what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing. And then it goes from there. There were other episodes where other characters are introduced, other problems occur, whatever. What the producer said to me was, the amount of information you gave me in the pilot episode, that is no longer a pilot episode. He said, that's an entire season, easily, if not the entire series. And what he basically was going on about was they like to drag this stuff out. And I understand that to a certain degree. It's television. It's binge watching, whatever, streaming. They're trying to get people interested. They're trying to get people to watch. And they're teasing you along. But there is a limit. So if you look at the TV show Lost, that to me is a perfect example of a show that did the teasing, all teasing and no payoff. Like the payoff for Lost didn't matter anymore because they had dragged it out too long. They had put in way too many elements, and really the payoff was lame. I hated the payoff. I got dragged into watching the final season by my friend who was convinced it was going to be great and then was very disappointed. I could tell that that show was going nowhere. It was an endless tease. If they could have teased you another 3 years, they would have done it. That's part of the problem with television. It's part of the problem with selling it. The X-Files sort of rolled out like that in a way. You know, it was sort of like Tales from the Crypt, FBI files in a kind of way. And it reached a tipping point in this one episode in the X-Files in which Mulder and Scully were about to discover the aliens. And you may remember this finale, one season finale, where the aliens with their eyes sewn shut march off this ship and they're holding these crazy rods and it looks like an invasion. And I thought, oh my God, what are they going to do next season? And I tuned in and they kind of almost completely ignored that. What I wanted to see as a writer, as a guy who likes to see payoffs, is I wanted to see the X-Files turn into a completely different show. I wanted to see it turn into an alien invasion show in which now everybody who told Fox Mulder he was crazy suddenly turned around and said, oh my God, you're a genius. You knew what was going to happen. What do we do? They could have gone in that direction. And to me, that would have been a more exciting direction because from then you wouldn't have known what was going to happen, right? You would have said, oh my God, the X-Files is a completely different show. I have no idea what's going to happen now. It's turned into this show about an alien invasion in Earth. That would have been exciting, in my view. Now, some people might have said, oh, I like the old show. Nothing wrong with the old show. But if you're going to make art, and this is a kind of art, you need to evolve. You need to keep moving forward. This show could be great. It could do that. Because it's on streaming, it's sort of in its own little corner of the universe. It would be great if it did that, right? One season, oh, what happened to this woman? She went up in space and now she came back and things are different. You know, it could be that they do this first season, reveal this big reveal, and then the second season is like an amazingly different show with completely different stakes. Or they could do what they did on Next Generation. They did an episode on the Next Generation where Worf keeps getting onto the Enterprise, and each time he gets on, he's coming back from this sports tournament, and his reality has been completely changed, and he keeps leaving the ship, doing some sort of experiment, and then coming back to a different reality. And because of this, he's jumping through realities, and by the end of the show, they wrap it up, and he gets back to his own reality. But for a TV series, you can do whatever you want. The problem is, when a show becomes successful, typically the studio is like, well, the show is successful because of X. You got to keep doing X. Even if you plan to move to Y and then Z and then maybe ABC. One of the reasons Game of Thrones was so insanely good for 3.5 seasons was it followed the books. And the books would do that. It would completely change the paradigm. Now, it was still locked in its own little universe, but the lineup would change, right? Because important characters just died, and that was it. They were dead. And then you were like, oh my God, who's the hero of this thing? And it would just move on. And that's what made it exciting. So, can this show be a Game of Thrones type situation where they keep, I don't know, even changing characters or just moving on to a new paradigm? My guess would be no. Just because producers are lazy and cowardly a lot. For the most part, they rarely do anything like that. Because they don't trust the writing talent in that second season. Because they could move on to that second season and it could be a ratings dud. And then they say, oh, we got to go back to the first part. And they've had shows where they've done that, where they've made a left turn, they're doing something cool, but they don't stick with it long enough, and then they turn back. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there have been episodes or TV shows that have done that. And you need the writing talent to make it work. Now, what I'm seeing here, it's fine. It could be good. Or it could be one long, endless tease for 2 or 3 seasons, and then it just peters out because people are sick of getting jerked around. Unfortunately, that tends to be the norm. So, I like the cut of its jib. Maybe. Let's read the write-up here. Jo returns to Earth after a disaster in space and discovers there are missing pieces in her life, so she sets out to expose the truth about the hidden secrets of space travel and recover what she has lost. It could be interesting if it turns out that's every time somebody travels in space. That could be mind-blowing. Like, you know, she could reveal, like, oh my God, this happened to everybody else, whoever went up into space. That could be interesting. You could tie it back to the original astronauts. We'll see. Would I watch this? It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. I would give it a chance. I would give it a chance. It's on Apple TV. I kind of have Apple TV. I never set the damn thing up. I don't know. Here it is here. I really ought to. I like it better than that other space show they tried to do. Apple TV, some of the shows look good. I mean, Rob McElhenney of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has a show. I hear it's pretty decent. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Sorry. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more bass takes. If you can find a more bass take, I say take it. I will be at Valenzano Winery on Friday from 4 to 6 for my talk on how to hunt the Jersey Devil. Hope to see you there. We'll see you in the next one.